Hey all, it is October 11th, most likely where you are at today, maybe. So yeah, going over some of the stuff we have. Um, Work on the wizard is still going. That's the new name for the Zendesk router is the wizard. It could change names again. We don't know. About 20% of it's done. I've still got to do self-managed in the dedicated parts, and then there's team review and UX review. So I've got one of those done. So I would say 20%, 1/5 done. After all that's done, obviously there's then the actually starting the testing phase and all that fun stuff. But I'm not going to give those percentage points on the development side of it. The new category fields are added to Zendesk as of this morning. Next up is going to be the form changes, since, but those require an announcement and future planning. Adding fields does nothing to anything. Until you add them to a form, they're just there. So there's zero impact, what I would call a C4, but adding them to the forms is a major change. So that's like a C2, C1 kind of change. So we'll be working on those next, and then we'll announce and all that fun stuff. You probably saw that holiday planning is started for support, and I am DRI on that. For us in readiness, I don't think we need to do a huge elaborate process like that. There's not as many of us. Coverage isn't necessarily required on those days. So just to kind of help so we can plan amongst ourselves, put in your PTO now for holidays you're taking. If you're like unsure if, I might take Thanksgiving off, go ahead and put in that you're going to take it off. You can always retract it later. Better for us to assume you're not working than assume you are. So just within the near future, if you can do that, it'd be great and helpful. As I'm not seeing a greater support planned appreciation, Lyle, correct me if I've just missed it. Okay, we're going to do a scavenger hunt like we talked about last quarter. So the issue will be forthcoming this week. It'll have various category, various ideas y'all posted, and some that I will add in there, and we'll take pictures of the scavenger hunt, and then we'll do like a presentation and vote on who we think is the winner of the scavenger hunt, and there will be a prize that is to be determined. I say that because depending on your location, it might not be the same for somebody else. So expect an issue coming from there, and then we'll kind of go from there. Cool. I'm going to skip the next item. Depending on time, I might do a demo, but upcoming PTO, I'll be off on the 18th for a wedding, and then 21st, the 24th for the Ren Fair. Dylan will be off on the 17th and 21st. Bill and Dan, I didn't see any for you, but if there is any, do you want to voice it real quick?
Not in October. Yeah, but in November. So yeah, no worries.
Yeah, I think I just haven't put in for Thanksgiving yet, but that's the next thing. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, no, I just looked at October, so didn't look at any of the future dates for that. Lal, you want to voice yours since you're typing them out?
I'm off on the 21st. It feels like since September, my kids have not had a single full week of school. And it seems like that trend is not going to stop anytime soon.
Out of curiosity, is it like a public holiday or?
It's a combination of public holidays and professional development days.
Okay,
so
cool.
Yesterday was Thanksgiving for us, and the week before that was something. I don't know. I can't keep track of them all.
Fun stuff. I'm always curious. I don't know holidays as well outside of the US. I don't even know the US holidays that much. Catch me off guard.
I was talking to someone like outside of the company who was a European citizen. I guess you can't be a citizen of Europe. Citizen of a European country, but living in the US, and they're like, "Oh yeah, Monday's a holiday," and I was like, "What a holiday is it? It's a holiday?" He's like, "I don't know. Our company's calling it World Mental Health Day, and we're just all taking it off." Okay, and then come to tell it is a holiday. It's very confusing.
Yes, in Europe, yesterday was World Mental Health Day. So most of the European countries, they follow that day as an off day. Although we have Family and Friends Day, so it kind of compensates over that.
I think in the US yesterday was Columbus Day. Yeah.
or
Yep.
Indigenous Peoples Day, or Italian American Heritage Day, depending on where you are.
Hmm,
We celebrated by watching the South Park episode about Columbus Day.
that's the
That was
most
pretty
fun.
much it.
Yeah, that was the most fun thing about being the Columbus Day. I have seen that.
So it's a very, very funny episode, but definitely not safe for work. Cool. So we still got some time. So I'm going to do a demo showing how I do form changes rather easily to get the MRs created, because if you've ever had to edit a form, it's annoying in Zendesk, and then getting the JSON for it and writing that up and converting it to YAML and all that, also super annoying. So I'm going to show you kind of a trick of how I do that. So let me share my screen. Should be the right one. All right, so you should see the ticket forms page, right? Cool.
Yep.
Yes.
All right, so just for sake of showing a very simple example, but this could be as complex as needed. Let's say we're going to be editing this sauce form. First, I clone it. Okay, so I'm on the clone. Let's say we're removing a signee out of office from it. Let's just say that's as simple as a change is growing. Obviously, we could be editing conditions and all kinds of other stuff. So having done this, we now have a new form live in Zendesk. Now, I would also make this not editable for users so they can't see it in the brief time that you're working on this. So it's agent only. I would then go into the repo, hoping y'all can see this. Yes, you can see my terminal. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So if you run the Zendesk script, it'll gather everything from Zendesk and then drop into a Ruby console. Require YAML, require JSON. Okay, so if you do forms equals JSON.parse file.read data/Zendesk, hoping I remember this name correctly. Nope. Then did I do that quite wrong? Zendesk ticket forms. Oh, forgot the .json at the end. Look at me. I was close. I was super close. All right, so if you basically tell it to read that JSON file that the Zendesk script generated, you now have them all into JSON format. And in theory, if I do forms.last, I get a ton of output, but I should see it's the copy of the sauce form we just made. So I can actually do puts form.last. Obviously, you'd want to select the actual form, but usually it'll be the last one that exists because you just created it. It'll have the last ID number and all that fun stuff. But if you essentially tell it to YAML, it'll give you all the YAML for that. Now, things like all this right here, the ID, name, raw name, display name, end user visible, position, etc. That's not changing on our regular forms 90% of the time. So you don't need that. What you really need is this ticket forms ID all the way down to the bottom. If you just copy that into the YAML file you're looking to edit, you're done. That has all the changes you were going to do. This is super useful for like that big, we're adding all these category fields and stuff. This is super useful so that you can go into the Zendesk admin and do them all here, where it is a little easier because you've got the UI helping you. And then you can drop into console and just get that JSON and copy and paste it into the file. This is a lot easier than trying to manually type out all of this. There are so many ID numbers and requireds and all this stuff. You're very likely to typo once, and that's very likely to cause problems. But yeah, so that's kind of how I normally do it, just because it is complicated. It is really easy to mess up that YAML. Whereas if you do it that way, Zendesk is giving you exactly the values it needs. Converting it to YAML gives us exactly what we need for the sync repos. Any
Awesome.
questions on how I did that? Because I honestly do recommend this strategy. If you want to manually type that all out, by all means, go for it. But I super don't recommend that.
My question regarding that is, Jason, how is it different than just going to the JSON version on the admin page of a form and converting that JSON to YML through a plugin?
It isn't. It's the same thing. I
Exactly
don't have
the
that
same thing.
plugin installed, but I could
Okay.
just as easily pull that API in my browser,
Right.
get that JSON, and then convert that to YAML.
Okay, that's my
What I
trick.
showed you just does it natively for you in the console, where you're probably at anyway to go ahead and edit that file. But either way works. I just highly recommend making it in Zendesk admin, getting the JSON, converting it to YAML, and using that, because manually typing out the 100+ lines of conditions, it's not hard to make one mistake. And then when reviewing an MR, it's super easy to overlook that mistake because we're looking at potentially hundreds of lines being changed. But yeah, that's just kind of how I recommend doing it. Obviously, if you have a different way that you like doing, by all means, do it. If it provides accurate results at the end, any way is really fine. I just kind of wanted to show you how I do that, especially considering like adding the category fields. We're about to see a lot of changes to forms. And I don't want you to think, Jason spent an hour and somehow got all these YAML files magically. No, it wasn't magic. I cheated. I took an easier route to get to it. Because that's honestly the best way to do it, in my opinion. Yes, I could go file by file and edit the YAML, but I promise you, I will make a mistake. I might put fields out of order, which will then cause it to not be exactly what we wanted and what we tested. So yeah, that's just kind of a trick I use. Fun fact, this is not unique to forms. You could, in theory, create a new trigger, mark it inactive, build it like that, and then copy it that way. You could do it that as well. There's different ways you can go about it. It's all kind of a matter of personal preference. With triggers, I've done it enough that it's quicker for me to type the YAML. With macros, it's the same thing, but with forms, it's way quicker for me to do what I just showed you. But any questions on how that's done? Anyway, it looks good until you go to do it. You might get confused of like, I tried doing it, didn't quite work, I'm confused. By all means, reach out to me, let me know. We'll do like a one-on-one pairing and I can show you more in depth that way. But
yeah, I will actually do the same thing. I've watched the recording and I'm sure that I'm gonna miss some script, or I'm going to do just like that. You forgot the and JSON. There are thousands of things. Being a noob in the coding, I would do that.
yeah, by all means,
I'm going
if
to
you try this and it doesn't quite work or you get errors or anything like that, hit me up, let me know, we'll do a pairing. I don't want y'all to attempt doing this on thinking like you always have to do this manually and there's no quicker way. If you find a quicker way, by all means, do it. Like, there's no wrong answers on this. That's how I do it. Nabil just showed he uses a browser plugin. Perfectly fine as well. There could be other methods I just don't know about. And by all means, if you find something that's helpful, post about it, do a recording, show how you did it, because somebody else could always benefit from that. Cool. Glad we had time for the quick demo. I tried to make that quick, but I also acknowledge I just very quickly went over running a bunch of code. So like I said, if you need help, hit me up. Always game to show how I do these things. It's not magic. Jason just knows shortcuts. Cool.
Okay. My question is related with Zendesk Wizard. When are we planning to put it live?
So I'm tentatively aiming to have the open beta testing of it live November 1st. Asterisk, I don't know what day of the week November 1st is. That may be the wrong day of the week. For all I know, that's a Sunday, and obviously I don't want to go to play this on a Sunday. But the plan is Q4, beginning of Q4, we want to have a link at the top of, in this case, the LNR form, because that's where this is focused. That basically just has some info saying, hey, we're working on this thing. We would appreciate you using this and giving us feedback here or whatever. In theory, them using it They're going to be clicking buttons that tell us, yes, this resolved, no, it didn't, I need a ticket, and that'll be updating our metrics so we can see, hey, this is resolving tickets, hey, this isn't resolving it. 100% of people used it, either just closed it out or it didn't resolve it. Stuff like that is data we'll be able to obtain. So I'm aiming beginning of Q4. Obviously, when there's things like support's review of it and UX's review of it and all that stuff, I'm giving it the asterisk of that's my aim, not necessarily when we are going to go live with it. The idea is to do an open beta of this specific subsection, the LNR form, and come back, get the feedback, review it. Me and Lee are going to review it and kind of decide like, okay, this was a success. We want to move forward. Let's add sauce account. That's the next small thing we can add to it. Obviously, like the sauce SM dedicated actual support ticket stuff, that's the one of like, that's a massive category that we want to do as much smaller testing before we spend hours, days, weeks, whatever it takes to develop the bigger one and then go, oh no, this is terrible. We don't want to move forward with this. So we're starting small. The aim is beginning of Q4. I plan to have like the actual development of the SM and dedicated parts done relatively quickly. There are a lot of copy and paste from the sauce parts because a lot of it is the same. It's just, it is. Especially with like dedicated, a lot of it's going to match self-managed because it kind of is self-managed. So I don't expect those parts will take a lot. I plan on doing like a week to let the support team review what we have. UX, I want to give them however much time they want, but I also want to kind of set that. I really want to have this live sooner rather than later, so let's not let this go on for months. And then the plan is once we're ready to go, we'll edit the forms, or in that case, I think it'll be the theme. We'll edit the theme to have that JavaScript that says, implanted in there that says we're doing an open beta of this thing. And then I will take the current repo and mirror it to a different folder where the actual form URL that is generated looks pretty. We obviously don't want to link people to, whatever it is, wizard.gitlab.io.com/Zendesk global. Yeah, like we don't want to link them to a messy URL like that. So we'll mirror it to a nicer folder where it looks prettier. That's the tentative plans for it. Obviously, there's a lot of beta testing involved with that. So we could beta test and decide this wasn't worth pursuing. Let's go ahead and abandon the project. Could be this was a rousing success. Let's move on to the next stage. Still a lot of stuff in flux for that. But Lee and I, wow. Lee and I are still very optimistic that this will be helpful. The people I have had look it over, like how this is a more self-guided, self-managed kind of approach to troubleshooting. They see the benefits of this for more complex topics. Obviously, we picked some pretty simple topics to start with, but we see a lot of advantage to this when we get to things like geo installation or upgrading and stuff like that. That's kind of the tentative plans. Obviously, there's always a big asterisk next to that of the future's never set in stone. Cool. Does that answer your question? I know I just kind of rambled for a lot longer than I probably intended. I'm gonna assume it answered your question, but you're muted. So if you're trying to tell me no.
No, it's not. Yes, I understand that. And I'm just actually looking forward to get this done. I think it's pretty good thing. Really take a lot of time off from the support engineers as well. How are we going to measure that? That is the question that we have to figure it out, that how good it has
in the
been.
form, there are parts where it gives you doc links and asks, did this resolve your problem? If they say yes, that is actually, I've got some Google fanciness set up to update a Google sheet that lets us know this was resolved by this step, by this doc link. In the cases where they say, no, I need a ticket, it's going to update that to say, this did not get resolved, the ticket was needed. We can then
Mhm.
kind of look into the tickets coming into that categorization from that step and say, okay, look, we're getting these kind of tickets. It's not being resolved. Is this, we need more steps? Is this the docs need updating? Stuff like that, where we can kind of figure out, okay, why couldn't we pre-resolve this issue before they actually needed to file a ticket or contact sales or email
Right.
open source ad or whatever.
My last question is this, that will that take over submit a ticket button in our UI?
So tentatively, the plan, I'm not quite sure on this. Me and Lee are kind of like trying to figure this out. Of we don't want to block people from being able to submit a ticket if they want to submit a ticket, and I don't want to block them with a complicated wizard. So it might be that we add another button instead of just submit a ticket. It's use this troubleshooter, use this wizard. The idea of the wizard is when it does fail and you need to submit a ticket, it does pre-populate a lot of the ticket for you with the information from the troubleshooter. So obviously, like, it would be better for a customer to use it. That way, when they do submit a ticket, it can kind of tell, a support agent, hey, they've already read this, they've already read this, they've already read this. There's no need to link them to all this. Like, they've already read it, they've claimed it didn't help. Now, as far as will we block the submit a ticket button to put that in front and say you have to do that, I'm not quite sure. I think that's like a discussion we want to have with, like Lyle's like doing the, I'm not sure. I'm not either, because I can see the pros and cons to both sides.
Oh, yes.
It could be we put that to a vote for support. It could be we talk to customer success and marketing and several other teams to get their input of what they think. So it really does depend. It could be, the idea would be to, you can submit a direct ticket, but we're going to kind of lean towards the use the wizard first kind of approach. But if you don't want to, you can go here to submit a ticket.
Yeah, like in my previous experiences with this information, I have used as a customer for some companies where they ask, I call them triage questions, or helping you before doing everything and submitting a ticket. In that scenario, sometimes I get put off just by the length of the questions they are asking me, and rather than assisting me directly. It's like there are 7 or 8 pages that I have to submit. So I always want that, oh, come on, this is crap. I just want to submit a ticket. I don't want to answer all these questions because they do not look relative to what I'm looking for. So yeah, we can have both. Submit a ticket could be a small option on the top of everything, like, there is a thing.
Yeah, and I like that's I don't want to make like a blocker to getting help. That's not what this is intended to do. I've definitely worked with support systems where it's like, before you can submit a ticket, you have to talk to our AI chatbot and answer questions just right to get it to let you submit a ticket. I don't want that.
Oh, yeah.
I definitely don't want to block people from getting help. The idea of this is the exact reverse. I want to get people help faster and more efficiently. That's our goal, is to get people help fast. So we don't want to block people from getting help. So that's why I'm kind of leaning more towards I don't want to block the ability to direct submit a ticket. And I feel like someone might have a reason not to use the troubleshooter, and the feedback they could give of why they felt they don't want to use it is valuable to improving the wizard. So I know I just keep changing names for whatever it's called, but I'm sorry. I apologize. Like,
Yeah, I get
it's in flux. But yeah, so that's where I'm leaning. I don't want to block people from being able to support tickets, because nothing frustrates me more than an automated call system that makes me hit 15 different buttons to actually talk to a human being. We definitely don't want that. But we also do want people using the troubleshooter, because the goal of it is to help them resolve their issues without needing to submit a ticket and wait for an agent to reply and all that fun stuff. But I feel like there is a marriage between those two topics of use the troubleshooter, but we don't want to block support. I don't know exactly what they are right now. I think once we get a fully fleshed out project, that's a bigger discussion to have of, okay, how do we want to proceed as a support organization, as a company? Because obviously,
Right
like as a company, we could decide, no, you always have to use the troubleshooter, the wizard. I promise the name will be nailed. Once the name's nailed down, I will commit it to memory. But yeah, we could go that route as a company and support team of, no, we always want you to use the wizard. We could go the route of, we really want you to, but here's how you can bypass it. So we could go the route of, we actually don't want that in front of the support portal at all. We only want it in our documentation. So there's different ways to go with that. We'll kind of see how it goes. So my summary answer to that is to be determined. And Lyle, feel free to weigh in if you have other ideas.
I mean, this is a process, right? To be determined is
Yeah.
where we're at. So like, I think we need to create the technology and then we'll see where it fits within the support experience that we're aiming for.
Yeah, that's where I'm leaning to is I have thoughts, but I also don't want to set those in stone right now. There's a lot of unknown factors between now and then. So right now the focus is get it created, see what it can do, get the feedback, determine how we want to move forward. Cool. Any other questions, comments, concerns, thoughts? All right. Quote Lee, that is 3 beats. I will let y'all go about your day, morning, evening, afternoon, dusk, whatever it is where you are located. Have a good one, y'all.
All right,
Yeah.
everyone. Bye.